personality and the eminent speaker of the day, Dr. Sushil Kumar Maheshwari sir, who is highly passionate about delivering the best out of best to students that could thrive and infuse hope among the learners. Undoubtedly, Sir is a role model for his commitments and responsibility to scale greater heights. We are very fortunate to have Sir with us. And once again, I would like to extend my affable welcome to our resource person and our special guest of the day, Dr. Sushil Kumar Maheshwari Sir, and dear nursing professionals. Before proceeding up, as usual, we have to stick up ourselves to webinar rules. That is, keep yourself mute. If it is needed, you can unmute. Keep your video off. Avoid multitasking like scribbling on active screen. Drop your queries in chat box in your control panel, or even at the end, you can interact with a resource person in order to clear your doubts. Now, dear participants, let me walk you through our academy. It is a new beginning, new mindset, and new focus, new start, new intentions, and new results. And here we all are in Win Academy. We wish you be with Win Academy. Let me inaugurate you with our academy. Brayo International Nurturing Academy, in short, Win Academy, is an online and offline educational and research academy based in India, which is registered under MSME, Government of India. Win Academy offers a wide range of educational topics for faculties and students of medical, nursing, and paramedical stream in their career development. Let's dive into our webinar. Before the launch, let me take this gracious opportunity to introduce and acknowledge our resource person, Dr. Sushil Kumar Maheshwari sir, whose presence is ultimately a great delight. To talk about sir's education and achievement, Sir is working as Associate Professor in Baba Farid University of Health Sciences in Faridkot, Punjab in India. Sir has pursued his PhD in psychiatric nursing from INC Consortium and Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. Sir has also done MA in Public Administration and MSc Nursing in Psychiatric Nursing from AIIMS, New Delhi. Sir has been teaching human psychology, psychiatric nursing, nursing research, and advanced nursing to UG and PG students for more than 15 years. Sir is an examiner and guide to UG, PG nursing students and doctorate nursing students of INC Consortium in Baba Farid University of Health Sciences in Faridkot, Punjab, and other universities too. Sir has 50 publications in various indexed or referred journals. Yeah, next slide, please. Sir is members of several nursing and health organizations, including Indian Society of Psychiatric Nurses, Red Cross India, Trained Nurses Association of India, Nursing Research Society of India, Indian Science Congress Association, and Sir has also delivered invited lectures, chaired scientific sessions, and presented scientific papers in many national and international conferences. Sir is an editorial board of more than 12 national and international journals. Sir has been instrumental in organizing various conferences and CNE program of national and international repute. Sir is recipient of Certificate Award from Ministry of HRD, GOI for Meritorious Student in Secondary and Senior Secondary Examination organized by BSc Ajmer. Presently, Sir is a PRO of Indian Society of Psychiatric Nursing in Bangalore and elected member of PhD Consortium Alumni of India. Sir has authored a textbook on psychology. Sir has crossed the boundaries of excellence with his great spirit towards nursing profession. I present my convivial welcome to you, sir. Please give a virtual round of applause for Sir. It's going to be a great event from now, one we have been planning and waiting for. Now I hand over this session to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti, for
Thank you,
introducing me amongst the participants. First of all, I would like to thank Win Academy, who's given me opportunity to share my views, my knowledge with various nursing faculties and students sitting in India at various locations through this digital platform. A special thanks to Dr. Vince Verghese, who is one of my friend, and he called me to take these sessions, and I happily given him consent to take this session. Is my slide is visible?
No, sir.
Oh,
It written. It has started screen sharing, but it's still not visible.
now it is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah, the topic which is with me is qualitative research method. As I am very thankful to Bio International Nursing Academy and special thanks to my dear friend Vince. Going on the topic or the webinar session, in next 1.5 hours, I am going to cover the qualitative research methods with introductions, characteristics, various steps of qualitative research methods, research traditions used in qualitative research methods, advantages and disadvantages, and at the end, we will have a quiz to just plan how much you got from this webinar. So as we all know, research is a systematic, controlled and empirical procedure to answer any research questions or to solve a problems. And being in nursing professions, we have our nursing research subjects from UG in 4th year onwards. And then in MSc nursing, the students has to complete a research project in a form of thesis. And later on in doctoral thesis also is a type of research. Other than this academic requirement, now the nursing fraternities also involved in independent research also. And this research in nursing are resulting in basis of evidence-based practice. So what are the research methods? Presently, we have broadly two types of research methods. Research methods are the techniques used by the researcher to structure a study and to gather and analyze information which is relevant to the research question. The two alternative paradigms which are positive and the second one is naturalistic have a strong implication for the research method to be used. Presently, we have two types of research method, quantitative research method and qualitative research method. We all know what is quantitative research method because it is the most commonly used research method in nursing practice. It is a formal, objective, systematic process in which numerical data are used to obtain information from the participant about their world. This research is used to describe variables, examine relationship among variables, determine cause and effect interactions between variables. The second, let us take an example of quantitative study. That this is one of the example in which there was a study was conducted to assess the effectiveness of psychoeducational intervention on psychological distress and self-esteem among resident elderly. So this is one of the very simple and basic example of quantitative research study, and it was a experimental study. Moving forward on qualitative research. Qualitative research is a systematic, interactive, subjective approach which is used to describe life experiences and give them meaning. It involves collecting and analyzing non-numerical data because the data in the form of verbatim or text, videos, audios, or pictures to understand the concept, opinion, or experiences or phenomena. It can be used to gather in-depth insight into a problem or generate new ideas for research. So these are few of the characteristics of qualitative research. Qualitative research is conducted to describe and promote understanding of human experiences such as pain or comfort, or likewise. It is common, earlier the qualitative research is commonly used in the humanities, social sciences, and other subjects such as anthropology, sociology, education, history. But now in health sciences, we are also having qualitative research in nursing and medical sciences. Let us take a very basic example of qualitative research, just so that you can orientate what is basically is qualitative research. Before going ahead, again I am asking, is my voice is audible to all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your
Thank
voice
you,
is
thank you.
audible.
Yeah, thank you, sir. This is one of the study of a departmental store where study was conducted about the number of female customers in that particular departmental store. The purpose of the owner was to observe the owner of the departmental store observed that female are visiting less as compared to the shopping stores and malls of the nearby area. So he focused to identify what could be the reasons behind this behavior of the female customer, those who are not coming to the departmental store. So what he did a qualitative research study in which he conducted interviews of randomly selected female customers by visiting the nearby stores and malls. So in simple meaning, he went to the other nearby stores and malls. He might be stand outside the uh, other malls or shopping centers and asked or conducted interviews with the female customers, those who were there in the other shopping centers. So after conducting the interview with them, the owner found that his own store doesn't have enough items for women. So there were that was the reason by which only fewer women were visiting to their his store, and this finding he came to know only by personally interacting with the female customer and understanding why they didn't visit the store, because in his store there were more male products than the female ones. That's the reason he came to know uh, while talking with the female customers that uh, the belongings or the materials which they required for their own use were less in his shopping centers as compared to the other shopping centers. So this is one of the example. It's not directly related with the health or nursing sciences, but I kept it here as an example to just orient you what happens in qualitative research. So these are few of the research questions which arise in qualitative research design, like how does social media shapes body image in teenagers? So this is one of the qualitative research questions. In Hindi, I would like to say कि social media teenagers की body image को कैसे shape करता है? Or the second question is, how do children and adults interpret healthy eating in India? Another example is, what are the factors which influence employee retention in a large organization like a hospitals? कि किसी हॉस्पिटल के अंदर ऐसे कौन कौन से फैक्टर्स हैं जो कि एम्प्लॉय को रिटेन करने में हेल्प करते हैं. The other example is, how is anxiety experienced around the world? The other example is, how can teachers integrate social issues into the science curriculums? So these are a few of the research studies and along with the research questions which generates during the qualitative research design. If we would like to compare the quantitative research design with qualitative research approach, we can see that in qualitative research, it's a naturalistic philosophical origin, or it could be interpretive or humanistic approach, whereas in quantitative research, it is logical or positivism. The focus of qualitative research is broad, subjective and holistic view, whereas the focus of quantitative research is concise and objective. The reasoning is inductive in qualitative research, and it could lead to a generation of theory, whereas it is deductive in quantitative. The basis of knowing in qualitative is discovery and understanding of the phenomena, whereas in quantitative research, it could be a cause and effect relationship. In quantitative research, it tests the theory, whereas qualitative research, it develops the theory. Methods of measurement in quantitative research are interviews, questionnaire, instruments, or observation scales, whereas in qualitative research, the methods of instruments are unstructured interviews and observations. The data which collected during quantitative research are in the form of numbers, whereas the data which you collect in the qualitative research is in the form of words or verbatim. So these are few of the characteristics and comparison of quantitative and qualitative research. Now, this is the question for you. Characteristics of qualitative research design is its ongoing analysis, use of verbatim in data collection, flexible and elastic designs, researcher is instrument, and all of the above. So you can put your answer in chat box, if I could see the chat box, or you can speak, anyone can speak. What could be the correct answer? The characteristics of qualitative research design is?
Sir, all of the above.
Yeah, very good. All of the above is the correct answer, because this is what characteristics of qualitative research design. We have ongoing analysis, the data are collected in the verbatim, it's flexible and elastic design, and researcher has to work as an instrument. Thank you, ma'am. Going ahead, this is an example of qualitative research study, a phenomenological study to explore the experiences of substance abuser admitted in de-addiction center. This is one of the study which was conducted by me around 2 years back, in which we had structured and open focus group interviews with the substance abuser, those who were admitted in de-addiction centers in our medical college, and we explored their experiences, how they felt. We had around 13-14 questions, which were very open and broad questions, and to ask about their experiences related to substance abuse. So this is one of the example of qualitative research is a study with phenomenological design. So if we see the research purpose and research questions, in qualitative research, if we have the purpose of identification, the question is, what is this phenomena? Okay, and what is its name? Phenomena here could be anything like culture, or like substance abuse behavior, or like retention of employee. These all are the phenomena or concepts which we say variables in quantitative research. So in description part, the questions which comes, what are the dimension of phenomena? What variation exists? What is important about the phenomena? In exploration, what is the full nature of phenomena? What is really going on there here? What is the process by which phenomena evolves or is experiences? And in explanation, how does the phenomena work? Why does the phenomena exist? All these we will more understand in the subsequent slides. So these are few of the research questions in qualitative and are compared with quantitative part parallel here. This is another example of a qualitative research. I have brought many examples for you so that you can understand really what happens in qualitative research studies. This is the experience of children who received liver transplant who has received liver transplant from the time before transplantation, through the surgery, and after the transplantation, and it was conducted in 2002. The sample size was 9 children with between the age of 7 to 15 years, and interviews were conducted with the children either in their homes or in the outpatient setting. The conversation was the duration of conversation was between 20 to 40 minutes, and the interviews were audio taped and transcribed. So before the interviews, the researcher asked the children if they would draw two pictures of themselves, one before the transplantation and one that reflected their present status. The purpose of this artwork or making picture was to help the children to relax and also to provide an opening for the interview. So this technique was used by the researcher to open the interview. An independent art therapist was help was taken from independent art therapist who interpreted the children's artwork, served as a consultant for this qualitative study. And this artwork thereby provided an opportunity for triangulation. So the qualitative data obtained from the interviews were analyzed and interpreted to discover the underlying themes of the children's experience. So the researcher used thick description in reporting results. 4 themes were emerged that describe the essence of the phenomena of pediatric liver transplantation. So what were those 4 themes? These 4 themes were, which were reported by the children: search for connections with peers before and after the transplantation, and also connection for the donors. The second theme which was emerged was ordinary and extraordinary experiences of hospitalization. So they discussed the experiences of hospitalization. Third one was painful responses and feelings of being out of the control. And the last 4th theme was the parents' responses to the illness. So these 4 themes were emerged during data analysis. And one of the quote which illustrated this 4th theme was, it was reported with one of the child: I will never tell my mom how I feel about anything. I don't think I would ever tell the truth because I would never want to upset her. I can just see the statement on her face. I know how she feels. She has been through so much stuff with me. I basically worry if she's all right instead of me. The researcher engaged in a number of activities to establish the rigor of the study. To enhance the trustworthiness of the data, researcher maintained a journal in which she documented her observations, analysis decisions, and so on. Credibility of the data was also established by having an older adolescents who validated the themes, and also by having an advisors and 3 colleagues who reviewed their findings. So this is another example of qualitative research study in which researchers collected the experience of children who received liver transplantation. So coming on, what are the characteristics of research design? Few of the characteristics I've already discussed. The remaining few I am going to discuss over here. Qualitative research often involves a merging together of various data collection strategies. And the data collection study is the mixture of sources and method, and we say it bricolage. Qualitative research design is flexible and elastic, capable of adjusting to what is being learned during the course of data collection. It's holistic in nature and is trying for understanding of the whole. The researcher has to intensely involved in the research program or process, and often remain in the field for lengthy periods of time, even for years also. The research has to spend in field work. Requires the research to become the research instrument. Require ongoing analysis of the data to formulate subsequent strategies and questions. Control over the extraneous variable is nil. There is no group comparison is planned in advance. The data collection point could be cross-sectional or it could be longitudinal, depends on the study title, and research setting is naturalistic setting. So these are few of the characteristics of qualitative research design. Let us see what are the steps of qualitative research. In quantitative research, we know that everything is fixed in advance. Like from where the data sample has to be taken, how will be the number of subjects, what research instrument has to be used, how to analyze and how to discuss. Everything is fixed in quantitative research. But in qualitative research, the progression of study is closer to a circle as compared to the straight line. Qualitative researchers continuously examining and interpreting data and making decisions about how to proceed based on what has already been discovered during the course of study. It has a flexible approach to the data collection and analysis of the data, and it is impossible to define the flow of activities precisely in the advance. Flow varies from one study to another, and researchers themselves do not know ahead of time exactly how the study will proceed. So this is the first step of qualitative research, in which I have given it heading as identifying the research problem. First of all, the researcher has to begin with a broad topic area. And usually the researcher focus on an aspect of a topic that is poorly understood and about which a very little is known. The general topic area may be narrowed and clarified and concise on the basis of self-reflection of the researcher, or the researcher may discuss the topic with the other colleagues or clients. But researcher may proceed with a fairly broad research questions that allow the focus to be sharpened and delineated more clearly once the study is underway. So the first step of a qualitative research study is to identify a research problem. After identifying the research problem, the next is literature review. In case of literature review, conflicting opinions exist amongst the qualitative researcher whether they should do review of literature or not. One group of qualitative researchers are those who believe that researchers should not consult the literature before the collection of data, because if they will collect the if they will read the literature before the collection of data, this might influence the course of the study. On the other side, there are few researchers who has belief that review of literature should be done at least at preliminary level, so that some guidance can be taken about the study. For this, in most of qualitative research study, bracketing is used. What is bracketing? Bracketing is holding by researcher his own beliefs and notions about the phenomena under study. Means the researcher keeps his own beliefs, opinions or feelings about the phenomena under study with himself and put it bracket. And you can say in simply words, he can do locking of his own belief information, so that it may not affect the course of the study or the data collection. So for literature review, the conflicting opinion exists. Now, third step is selecting and gaining entry into the research site. The researcher has to select a site which is consistent with the topic under study. For example, if the researcher has to understand the culture of the prisoners, then the research site would be a jail. So the researcher has to select a site as per the topic under study. In making selection of site, researcher may need to engage in anticipatory field work to identify the most suitable and information-rich environment for the conduction of the study. A site may be well suited to the needs of the research, but if researcher cannot get in, the study cannot proceed. So, in such situations, researcher can take the help of gatekeepers to get entry into the research site. And who are the gatekeepers? Gatekeepers are those people who have authority to permit entry into their own world. So gaining entry requires strong interpersonal skills as well as familiarity with the customs and language of the site or study settings. The next is selecting research design. In qualitative research study, we use the emergent design, a design which emerged during the course of study, and it does not concern with control of extraneous variables. So as the research progresses, the research design go ahead. The fifth step is addressing ethical issues. There are special concern in qualitative studies because of more intimate nature of relationship is built up during the data collections between researcher and the study participants. So ethical issues has to be taken care. The next step is data collection. Data collection typically take place again and again. The researcher begin with talking with or observing a few people who have first-hand best experience with the phenomena under study. The discussion and observation are loosely structured and allowing for the expressions of full range of belief, feelings, and behavior. Usually, researchers start with open-ended questions, which might be vague, which might be very open, and can ask views from the participants. The sample size decision are guided by the data themselves, and principle of data saturation is used to decide the sample size. What is data saturation? Data saturation occurs when themes and categories in the data collection becomes repetitive and redundant, as no new information can be gathered by further data collection. This is we called as data saturation. If we see the data collection method in qualitative study, we have observation method, interview method, focus group methods, survey methods, and secondary research, which involves collecting existing data in the form of text, images, audios, or video recordings. So these are the methods of data collections in qualitative research. Coming on data analysis and interpretation. Ongoing analysis and interpretation happens in qualitative research. Means जैसे जैसे डेटा आते जाएंगे वैसे वैसे ही डेटा की एंट्री होती जाएगी, उनकी थीम्स बनती जाएगी, उनकी कोडिंग होती जाएगी और उनका साथ के साथ एनालिसिस और इंटरप्रिटेशन होता रहेगा. दिस इज व्हाट ongoing analysis and interpretation. It guide the choices about the kinds of people to sample next and what type of question to ask and observation to make. So this ongoing analysis is also helpful in deciding the sample size as well as in deciding the research questions. The actual process of data analysis involves clustering together related types of narrative informations into coherent schemes. The analysis of qualitative data is an intense and very time-consuming activity. It's not easy this quantitative data analysis. As analysis and interpretation progresses, researchers begin to identify themes and categories, which are used to build a rich description or theory of the phenomena. Before building this theme and categories, the researcher has to write or transcript the verbatim in a proper Word document or has to handwrite in his notebook and book. And later on, he will be able to make the themes and categories. The kinds of data obtained and the people selected as participants tend to become increasingly focused and purposeful as the conceptualization is developed and refined. Concept development verification shape the sampling process. Now, if we see the qualitative data analysis, the first of all, prepare and organize the data. This may mean transcribing the interviews or typing up field notes. Then review and explore the data. The researcher has to examine the data for their pattern or for repeated ideas which are emerging. Then develop a data coding system. Based on the initial ideas, the researcher will establish a set of codes that can apply to categorize the data. Then assign codes to the data. This is the next step. For example, in qualitative survey analysis, this may mean going through each participant responses and tagging them with codes in a spreadsheet. As one goes through this data, he can create new codes to add to the system if necessary. And the last is identify recurrent themes. So in this step, researcher will link codes together into cohesive and overarching themes. So these are the methods of like steps of qualitative data. In very simple words, I would like to again repeat that जो भी data सबसे पहले collect हुए, the researcher has to transcribe those data or type up those field notes and will read all those notes. After reading and reviewing those written texts, he will try to develop some codes and themes. So coding is what categorizing. Suppose some of the data may be related to cause, some of the related maybe some of the data may be related with effect, some of the information may be related with symptoms. So this is what coding and making themes. And later on, he will distribute all the subjects into these category and themes and will go on. If we see the approaches to qualitative data analysis, we can say that there are four approaches of qualitative data analysis. The first approach is content analysis, which is used to describe and categorize common words, phrases, and ideas in qualitative data. For example, a market researcher could perform content analysis to find out what kind of language is used in description of therapeutic applications. The second approach is thematic analysis. Here, the researcher will try to identify and interpret the patterns and theme in the qualitative data. Okay, for example, a psychologist could apply thematic analysis to travel blogs to explore how tourism shapes self-identity. The third approach is textual analysis, in which the researcher will examine the content, structure, or design of the text. So a media researcher could see a textual analysis to understand how news coverage of celebrities has changed in the past decades. So this is an example of textual analysis. And the last is discourse analysis, in which researchers study communications and how language is used to achieve effect in a specific context. For example, a political person could use discourse analysis to study how politicians generate trust in election campaigns. So these are the four approaches to qualitative data analysis. I'm again revising. These are the content analysis, thematic analysis, textual analysis, and discourse analysis. In content analysis, we focus on words or phrases. In thematic, we focus on patterns and theme. In textual, we try to focus on content, structure, and text. And in discourse, focus is on communication and how languages affects. In qualitative, researcher must take steps to demonstrate of trustworthiness of the data while in the field. So trustworthiness of the data. The central feature of these efforts is to confirm that the finding accurately reflects the experiences and viewpoint of the participants rather than perception of the researcher. Many times it happens that if the researcher is not keeping his viewpoint, his opinion in bracketing, his own perception may affect the research finding. So it will lose the trustworthiness of the data. In such situations, the finding may be wrong from the study. So it's the responsibility of the researcher to collect the accurate data which reflects the experiences and true viewpoints of the participants. And this confirmation activity can be done by researcher by two methods. The first method is the researcher may going back to the participants and can share preliminary interpretation with them, so they can validate their own findings. Okay, in simple words, जो भी data collect किए researcher ने, researcher उन data को वापिस उन participants के पास लेके जाएगा, and he will ask to those participants whether they have given the information has the same meaning which the researcher has understood. The another strategy is use of triangulation to converge on a thorough depiction of the target phenomena. And at the end, the researcher should try to leave the field in a graceful manner, because in qualitative research, the researcher is makes good relations and good interpersonal relationship with the participants and in the community. So if he leaves the field suddenly or without informing, it may be hurting for the participants or for the community. So there should be a graceful departure from the researcher from the field or study setting. The last step of a qualitative research is dissemination, in which the researcher present his finding in a form of conference or put the findings in journal articles. And usually the research article is filled with rich verbatim passage of the participant, as I have presented in one of my example, in which one of the theme was explained in liver transplant examination. So that was what that was a rich verbatim passage of the participant. So these are the steps of qualitative research. Another example from my side to more explore about the qualitative research is experiences of women with permanent cardiac pacemakers. So the research question here is कि जिन women को permanent cardiac pacemakers लगे हैं उनके क्या experiences हैं. This is the study which was conducted in 2002. The researcher stated that biotechnical devices, this is what purpose of the study. The researcher stated that biotechnical devices such as pacemakers are increasingly being implanted into the people to manage an array of disorder. But little research has been examined the emotional impact of such technical advancement on their experiences. The researcher further noted that women may have distinctive response to implanted device because of the cultural messages about the masculinity of technology, but little was known about the women's unique response to permanent cardiac pacemakers. So the purpose of this study was to explore women's response to pacemaker implementations using in-depth interviews to solicit the women's real life stories. The researchers identified two specific research questions for this study. The first research question was, what is the experience of women living with permanent cardiac pacemakers? And the second question was, how do women incorporate permanent cardiac pacemakers into their lives and the body? So these are the two research questions which are framed by the researcher. A sample of 11 women who were patient at cardiology services of a large tertiary care hospital, they participated in the study. During interview, the women were asked a series of questions regarding their life events that led up to and occurred during and after their pacemakers implantation. Each woman participated in two interviews. An example of the question asked in the initial interview is, what has living with a pacemaker been like for you? So this is one of the questions which was asked by the researcher. What has living with a pacemaker been like for you? In the follow-up interviews, more specific questions were asked from the participants, from the women who has pacemakers, such as how often do you think about the pacemaker and when might you be reminded of it? The researcher analysis revealed 8 themes that emerged from the interviews data, and these 8 themes were relinquishing care, owning the pacemakers, experiencing fears and resistance, imaging their body, normalizing, positioning as caregiver, finding resilience, and sensing omnipotence. So these are the 8 categories which came out from their thick data descriptions. So let us understand research traditions in qualitative research. Although we have many research traditions in qualitative research, but broadly, I am here with 6 research traditions, and this 6 research tradition includes ethnography, phenomenology, grounded theory, historical research, case studies, and narrative analysis. The first of all, ethnography. It is primary research traditions and its roots are in anthropology. Ethnography provides a framework for studying the meanings, patterns, and experiences of a defined cultural group in a holistic fashion. Ethnographers engage in extensive research fieldwork in the life of the culture under study. And aim of the ethnographer is to learn from members of the culture group. So in simple words, ethnography is the study of a particular culture in a holistic fashion, and researcher has to undertake extensive field work. Ethnographies are a blend of processes and a product, fieldwork, and written text. So what comes under fieldwork? Fieldwork is the process by which the ethnographer inevitably comes to understand a culture, and ethnographic text is how that culture is communicated and portrayed. So the two things are very important in ethnographies, that is fieldwork, and second one is ethnographic text. Culture is not visible or tangible. We can't see culture. Okay, the culture has to be understood. So it must be constructed through ethnographic writing. Culture is inferred from the words, from the activities, and from the products of the member of a group. If you see the types of ethnographies, it could be macroethnography or microethnography. Macroethnography is concerned with broadly defined culture, such as culture of a village. So it is an example of macroethnography. Whereas in microethnography, the focus of researcher on more narrowed defined culture, such as culture of a homeless shelter, culture of a jail, culture of a ward, culture of a organizational unit, culture of the hospital, or how nurses communicate with children in an emergency department. It is also an example of microethnography. Microethnographies are exhaustive, time-consuming, fine-grained studies of either small units in a group or a culture. An understanding assumption of the ethnographer is that every human group eventually evolves a culture that guides the members' views of the world and the way they structure their experiences. There are two perspectives in ethnography, emic perspective and etic perspective. Emic perspective is the insider views. So what is insider views? Insider views means how the culture is being perceived by their own people. It refers to the way the member of the culture envision their world. The emic is the local language, concept, or means of expressions that are used by the members of the group under study to name and characterize their experiences. The second perspective is etic perspective, which is the outsider perspective. It is the interpretation of the experience of the culture by the outsider. It is the language used by those doing the research to refer to the same phenomena. Ethnographers strive to acquire an emic perspective of a culture under study rather than etic perspective. Moreover, they strive to reveal what has been referred to as tacit knowledge or information about the culture. And what is tacit knowledge or information? It is the information or knowledge that is too deeply embedded in the cultural experiences that members do not talk about it, or even many times the members are not aware consciously about this knowledge, but because that is part of their life now. So this type of knowledge or information is called as tacit knowledge. Ethnographers undertake extensive fieldwork to learn about the cultural group in which they are interested. Ethnography research is a labor-intensive that requires long period of time in the field. Sometimes the researcher has to spend years of fieldwork. So in most of the cases, researchers strive to participate actively in cultural events and activities. The study of a culture requires a certain level of intimacy with the members of the cultural group. And this intimacy can be developed only over time and by working directly with those members as active participants. So, in simple words, before conducting a ethnography, the ethnographer has to make a certain level of intimate relationship with the members of that particular culture, so that they can collect best information from the participants over time. The concept of research as an instrument is frequently used for ethnography because the researcher or anthropologist to describe the significant role play in analyzing and interpreting a culture. So here the researcher is himself work as an instrument for data collection. Three broad types of information are usually sought by ethnographers. The first type of information is cultural behavior, like what the member of the culture do. The second information collected is cultural artifacts, that what the members of culture make and use. And the third type of information which collects by ethnographers are cultural speech, what people say. So the three broad types of information which is collected by ethnographers are what they do, what they make, and what they say. This shows that ethnographers rely on wide variety of data sources, including observations, interviews, records, charts, and other types of physical evidences such as photographs, diaries, or letters. The product of any ethnographic researcher is the rich and holistic description of the culture under study. So the researcher who conducts the ethnographic research will able to make a rich and holistic description of that particular culture under study. Now, let us understand what is the use of ethnography in health and nursing. Ethnography provides access to health belief, health issues, and health practices of the culture or subculture in the context in which they occur. So, by doing ethnographic research or inquiry, the researcher can help to facilitate understanding of behavior which might affect the health and illness of the people who use that particular culture. And it will ultimately enhance the nursing judgment and improve the nursing care, because now the nurse is able to understand the culture of that particular people or the client. It has been seen as a way of accessing belief and practices, allowing these to be viewed in the context in which they occur, and thereby adding understanding of behavior surrounding health and illness. In addition, ethnography is particularly useful in understanding the organization of the healthcare. For example, ethnographer may conduct a study to understand communication and information management system in a tertiary care hospital. So this would be an example of ethnography. Another few of the example of ethnography is like to research the culture of a large hospital. The researcher work in a hospital for several months and use various methods to data collection. So this is an example of ethnographic research in which a researcher is trying to understand the culture of a large hospital. So what he is doing, he start working in the hospital for several months and use various methods to collect the data. He takes field note with observations and reflects on his own experiences about the hospital culture. He distributes open-ended surveys to employees across all the hospital employees to find out if the culture varies across the various locations. The researcher conducts in-depth interviews with employees in offices to learn about their experiences and perspective in greater detail. This is another area in which ethnographic research is conducted, that is the health business. Health business involves observing patients' habits and target markets in order to discover true market needs and the overall disposition of the product or service. And this health business ethnographic research is extremely beneficial research tool that can help organization to identify its customer needs and satisfy market demands. For example, Patanjali product. So what the company does before launching any products, I'm talking here about the suppose I take the example of multivitamins or immunity booster in this corona times. So now we can see a lot of immunity boosters and multivitamins are available in the markets. So what the companies are doing, the companies are conducting ethnographic research and asking people like what type of products they are preferring right now to take without any doctor's prescriptions, what kind of immunity boosters they would like to take, whether they would like to take or not, if they want to take immunity boosters or multivitamins, how much they can spend on daily basis. So there are many questions which company ask from the consumers on randomly basis, and after getting collecting lot of data, when the company is able to know that now there is no new information is coming from the consumers or the people who supposed to be use those multivitamins or immunity boosters, now they will categorize and make the themes and accordingly will launch the products. Whether the products has to be launched for the female, the product has to be launched for the male, the product has to be launched for all the age group, it has to be decided as per the findings of the research study. So this is one of the example of health business ethnographic research, in which health supplements or those drugs which are available over the counter, or immunity boosters or multivitamins, which nowadays everyone is taking to promote and protect their health, this type of research are done. This is another example of ethnographic research. This Bell 2004 conducted a study to describe the experience of homeless youth of illness and how these experiences differed by age, gender, and sampling size. The another example of ethnographic research is to explore the health-related perception and experience of immigrant Latino adolescents. This was conducted in 2007, in which 14 adolescent participants from a bilingual charter school and Catholic church in neighboring urban cities centered in a larger metropolitan area in the United States were conducted. And these participants were between the age of 15 to 20 years and were born and immigrated from Mexico. So this type of study is an example of ethnographic study, and information from 2 interviews and pictures taken by participants who had been given 24 exposure disposable cameras. Participant observations, field notes, and journaling was used. Content analysis and constant comparison with the help of Atlas software was done. At the end, finally, in conclusion, 3 themes were identified: mentally healthy, physically unhealthy, mentally unhealthy, and health promotions. So mental health nurses are in a position to educate this group of immigrant youth about the health and mental health services. This was the conclusion of the study. So there are various research studies are being conducted by nurses in the area of ethnography. The second type of qualitative study which is common is phenomenology. It was developed by Husserl and Heidegger, and it has disciplinary roots in both philosophy and psychology. So phenomenology is basically more concerned with live experiences of human. So the researcher tried to collect the lived experiences of the subjects under this study. It is an approach about what life experiences was of the people are like and what do they mean. Means कि उनके क्या experiences है and what is the meaning of those experiences for these people. So researcher or phenomenological researcher ask a question: what is the essence of this phenomena as experiences by these people? So in summary, the phenomenological research has roots in philosophy and psychology and is concerned with live experiences of people. There are 2 schools of phenomenology. The first is descriptive phenomenology, in which the meaning of people experiences with regard to the phenomena is understood, whereas hermeneutics, the focus is on how those experiences are interpreted. So one is the descriptive phenomenology, and the second one is, which we say is hermeneutics, is what? Interpretative phenomenology. The goal of phenomenological study is to fully describe the live experiences and the perception to which it gives rise. There are 4 aspects of lived experiences that are under the interest of the researcher, and these lived experiences are 4 aspects are lived space, lived body, live time, and live human relations, in which the researcher tried to collect those data from these 4 aspects. The main data source is in the in-depth conversation, and researcher and informant are at full co-participants. So the in-depth conversation technique is used to collect the data from the participants, and researcher helps the informant to describe live experiences without leading the discussion. Sometimes researcher experiences the phenomena in the same way through participations, observation, and introspective reflections. So this might also happen that researchers start feeling the same experience or the phenomena in the same way. Phenomenological research studies are useful when a phenomena of interest has been poorly conceptualized. So if a phenomena or variable under study is poorly conceptualized, then this research study can be done. The topics appropriate to phenomenological studies are ones that are fundamental to the life experience of human. For health researcher, this topic includes like meaning of stress, the experience of bereavement, or the quality of life with a chronic illness. So these are some of the areas in which nursing researcher can do phenomenological study. This is another question for the participant. The process of identifying and holding in abeyance any preconceived belief and opinions one has about the phenomena of understanding is known as option A, content analysis, B is bracketing, C is bricolage, D is bricolier. Anyone can tell the answer?
Bracketing.
Very good. Thank you. It's the correct answer. Bracketing is what holding his own belief, own opinion in a bracket so that it may not affect the course of the study or may not affect the influence the participant response. So that every qualitative researcher has to keep or hold his preconceived beliefs and opinion in advance before coming into the study. So this is known as bracketing. Thank you, ma'am. Let us have a few examples of phenomenological study. Number one example is women experience of acute myocardial infarction. This is one of the study conducted in 1994. The second example is registered nurses perspective of caring for adolescent female with anorexia nervosa. So what is the perspective of nurses who are caring for adolescent female with anorexia nervosa? So this is another example. The next example is patient and nurses experiences of caring in nursing. The fourth example is lived experiences of lower limb amputated patients, which was conducted under my guidance. That what are the lived experience of those patient whose lower limb is amputated because of any reason. So the lived experiences were collected from 11 subjects in this study. The fifth example is patient's experience of an intensive care unit following a liver transplant. So what is the experience of the patient who has been through ICU after their liver transplant, or what are the experience of nurses of a day hospital in chemotherapy ward? So these are few of the example of phenomenological studies. The third study, which we say is the grounded theory, and it's another qualitative research tradition. And the roots of grounded theories lies in the sociology, and it seeks to describe and understand the key social, psychological, and structural process that occurs in a social setting. So this is very important to understand that grounded theories has roots in sociology. Grounded theories were developed by two sociologists, the Glasser and Strauss in 1960s. And the major component of the grounded theory is the discovery of a core variable that is central in explaining what is going on in the social scene. The researcher strive to generate comprehensive explanation of phenomena that are grounded in reality. So grounded theory contributed to the development of many middle range theories of the phenomena relevant to the nurses. So the grounded theories are mainly used to develop middle range theories which related to those particular phenomena in nursing profession. Grounded theory is an approach to the study of social processes and the social structure. The focus of grounded theory studies is the development and evolution of the social experiences, the social and psychological stages and phases that characterize a particular event or episode. The primary purpose of the grounded theory approach is to generate comprehensive explanation of phenomena that are grounded in reality. So every grounded theorist try to understand or generate explanation about those phenomena which are deeply buried in the ground. In-depth interviews and these observations are the most common data source collection method, but existing documents such as Other data sources can also be used. One of the fundamental features of the grounded theory approach is that data collection, data analysis, and sampling of the study participants occur simultaneously, as happens in all other types of qualitative research. And the researcher used the technique of constant comparison. What is constant comparison? Categories elicited from the data are constantly compared with the data obtained earlier in the data collection process so that commonalities and differences can be determined. As data collection proceeds, the inquiry becomes increasingly focused on emerging theoretical concern. So we use the constant comparison in grounded theory. This is an example of grounded theory research study. A grounded theory study of the intention of nurses to leave the profession. So the researcher has focused on what is the intention of nurses to leave the profession. Objective of the study is to explore the process of the development of an intention to leave bedside nursing. What is the method? This research study was studied from the perspective of 21 nurses using the grounded theory method. Data were collected using semi-structured interviews, and the constant comparison method was used for data analysis. Result of the studies found that according to participants, two main categories were emerged. The first is social image of nursing, and the second was culture and structure of the bedside. These are the contextual factors that influence why nurses are leaving bedside care provision. Disappointment with the perceived lack of progress or improvement in the clinical experience form primary psychosocial concern for the participant to leave the bedside nursing. Competence and process of self-control were steps taken by the participants. These, associated with interventional conditions, produce the outcome of the loss of professional commitment and desire to leave bedside nursing. Failure to integrate personal expectations with organizational experience expectations in search of escape was the central category of the study that linked to the categories earlier. So these are the findings of this study. In conclusion, the findings of this study provide useful information about the needs of the nurses for overcoming the intention to leave bedside nursing care. The identification of this process can help in recognizing emerging problems and providing solutions for the nurses. So this is an example of grounded theory study in which the researcher tried to understand what are the reasons which are responsible for the nurses to leave the bedside nursing profession. Another example of grounded theory is the study of nurses who care for patients who are victims of sexual violence. Means सेक्सुअल वायलेंस के विक्टिम्स की जो नर्सेस केयर करती है उनके ऊपर उन नर्सेस के ऊपर स्टडी. दिस इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ ग्राउंडेड थ्योरी. द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ द स्टडी इज दैट sexual violence is a widespread traumatic event that had physical, psychological, financial, and spiritual implications for the victims, their friends, and their family and the community. The negative and long-term effects include poor health outcomes, depression, substance use disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Many nurses who treat these patients are inadequately trained. So the purpose of this study was the treatment of nurses towards patients who are victims of sexual violence can mitigate or contribute to perceived re-victimization of patients. So the purpose is that qualitative study was to identify the processes and uncover the attitudes and behavior of the nurses without specialized training who care for patients who are victims of sexual violence. Additionally, the purpose was to generate a theory that describes the process that these nurses use to make decisions about how to provide proper care. The philosophical underpinning under study is that grounded theory study was guided by symbolic interactionism and pragmatist philosophy. Methods used under this study was that grounded theory method of inquiry was used for this qualitative study. Data were collected with semi-structured interview with 13 emergency department nurses without specialized training in treating sexual violence victims and a focus group of 5 sexual assault nurses examined. Data analysis took place with a constant comparison process to reveal the conceptual categories and themes. The focus group confirmed the categories. Findings of the study is that 4 themes were emerged, and these themes were avoiding, attempting, analyzing, and adjusting. The basic social process and substantive theory that emerged was apprehending as unknown phenomena. This framework provides an in-depth understanding of the decision-making process of nurses caring for victims of sexual violence. The study concluded that it provided deeper understanding of the nurse's perception and experiences in decision to treat the patients who experience sexual violence. The theory which was developed in this study can be used to guide other nurses' decision making when they have little or no training on which base their decisions. With further development of an evidence-based model, study findings should help improve outcomes for patients and reduce stress and anxiety in nurses who treat patients who have experienced traumatic sexual violence. So this is an example of grounded theory studies in which nurses were interviewed and asked their own feelings about when they care for victims of sexual violence. The fourth research tradition in qualitative research is historical research. As the name is saying, it is the systematic collection, critical evaluation, and interpretation of the historical evidence. Means the data which are related to the past incidents or occurrences. Historical research is undertaken to answer those questions which may be related with cause and effects or trends related to the past events that may shed light on the present behavior or practices. An understanding of contemporary nursing theories, practices, or issues can often be enhanced by an investigation of a specified segment of the past. Historical data are usually qualitative in nature, but quantitative data can also be used like historical census data. So mainly historical research is used to understand the past, as the past behavior may affect the presence of the generation. So to get the light on the present behavior and practices, if we try to understand what was happened in the past, we can go with historical research. Suppose what was the eating pattern 20 years back or 50 years back, what are the food practices of the people. So because the past food practices may affect the present or the future, so if you want to understand what was the past food habits of the people, we may go with historical research. Historical research can take many forms. It could be biographical histories, social histories, or intellectual histories. Biographical histories involves the study of experience or contributions of individuals such as nursing leaders. So we can take help of the nursing research leaders to collect experiences and contributions of them. The second is social histories, which focus on a particular period in attempts to understand prevailing values and beliefs that may have helped to shape subsequent development. And the third is intellectual histories, where historical ideas or ways of thinking are scrutinized. So these are few forms of the historical research. Data for historical research are usually in the form of written records, such as diaries, letters, notes, newspapers, minutes of meetings, medical or legal documents, and so forth. However, non-written materials may also be in the interest of the researcher. For example, physical remains and objects are potential source of information. Visual materials such as photographs, films, are other forms of data, as are audio materials such as records and tapes. In some cases, it is possible to conduct interviews with people who participate in historical events, like suppose nurses who served the soldiers in Indo-Pakistan War If we talk with those nurses, this could be historical research. There are two types of criticism in historical research. The first is external criticism and the second is internal criticism. What comes under external criticism? It concerns with the data's authenticity. Means the researcher tries to authenticate the data कि वो जो data हमें मिल रहे हैं वो ठीक है या नहीं है. For example, a nursing historian might have a diary which might be written by Florence Nightingale. So if we would like to do external criticism, it will involve asking such questions about his handwriting. So the researcher will compare the document with the other handwritings of the Florence Nightingale. So this is a type of external criticism. Another example is, another method is age of the paper. So the age of the paper should be around 100 years back when the Florence Nightingale was there, 200 years back, or when the paper was written. Writing styles and ideas which are expressed should be consistent with the other writings of the particular author. So this is comes under external criticism. What comes under internal criticism is an evaluation of the worth of the evidence. The focus of internal criticism is on the content of material. The key issue is the accuracy or truth of the data. For example, researcher must question to himself whether a writer's representation of the historical events are unbiased. So in internal criticism, the researcher tried to find the view of the author on the basis of biasness. The examples of historical research includes images of nurses in advertisements from 1930s to 1950s. This was a study which was conducted in 2000, in which the image of nurses in advertisements which were available from 1930s to 1950s were undertaken. So in this study, the researcher hypothesized that nurses' relative status in advertisement would be higher in 1940s than in 1930s or 1950s, and her hypothesis was supported. The next type of research tradition is case study. So case studies are in-depth investigations of a single entity or a small number of entities. So the researcher focused on a single subject or on a group of subjects, but they are considered as one. The entity may be an individual, family, group, institution, community, or other social unit. In a case study, researcher obtain a wealth of a descriptive information and may examine relationship among different phenomena or may examine trends over time. The strength of case study is that in-depth information is collected that is possible when a limited number of participants or institutions or individuals or groups is being investigated. So this is the strength of the case study, that we are able to get in-depth information about the phenomena under study. Case study provide researchers with opportunity of having an intimate knowledge of a person's conditions, thought, feelings, actions, intentions, and environment. So these were the few of the qualitative research traditions, which includes phenomenology, ethnography, grounded theory, case studies, historical research, etc. Now, let us see what are the data analysis software which are available to deal with the data related to qualitative studies. As now we are able to know that in qualitative research, we are getting data in the form of verbatim, in the form of text. Here we are not getting data in the form of numbers or digits, which can be easily calculated with mathematical formula. So in qualitative research, researcher is not able to apply mathematical formulas on the verbatim or the words. So we need certain softwares or help of other experts to deal with those data. So if the experts are not available, a researcher can take help from the online software or on offline software available, which can be used for data analysis. So What is the software? Software helps in the form of explanation, understanding, or interpretation of the people and situation to help in the meaningful and symbolic content of the qualitative data. Software provides tools that helps with qualitative research such as transcription analysis, coding and text interpretation, recursive abstraction, content analysis, and discourse analysis. So these are few of the function of this software. Qualitative data analysis software help the users or researcher to save time, manage huge amount of qualitative data, increase flexibility, and improve validity and credibility of the qualitative research. And it this technique is away from manual and clerical tasks, so it save a lot of time and money. So what are the qualitative software available right now? These are the 14 top most qualitative software available. So NVivo, Atlas TI, Provalis Research Text Analytics Software, Quirkos, MaxQDA, Dadoos, Revans I, Kuka, WebQDA, Hyper Research, Transna, F4 Analyze, Annotations, Datagraph. These are few of the qualitative research analysis software available online. Some of these software are available on a free basis or on a trial basis, but has limitations, means the researcher will not be able to do lot of things on this software without getting prescriptions. So this is the free qualitative research software available are QDA, MainerLite, GATE, TEMS, RQDA, and QIQQA. So these are few of the qualitative research analysis software. Now, my questions from you, is it possible to conduct a research study in both the ways? This question was, I think, answered in last webinar organized by Brave International, in which mixed method techniques were taken care of Dr. Janardhan. So again, I am putting this question here. Is it possible to conduct a research study in both the way, means either qualitative or quantitative? I am not talking about the mixed method. Mixed method strategy is what? Taking few part of the quantitative and few part is qualitative. That is the mixed method. But here my question is, either a research study can be taken in a qualitative method or completely on quantitative basis. Is it possible to conduct the same study? This question is for participants. Anyone can answer. Or let me ask Lalita P. Are you there, Lalita P? Are you there, Lalita P? Miss Madhuri. Please unmute yourself. Mr. Anurag Singh. Please, can you help me? Now, almost presentation is over from my side. So now I would like to discuss or interact more with the participant.
Yes, sir, you can.
Yeah, but the participants are not responding. Are they allowed to unmute themselves?
Yes, they can unmute themselves.
Okay, my question is, suppose a research study can be conducted in both the way, in qualitative or quantitative?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Victor.
Yes, sir. It can be conducted in both the ways.
Yeah, thanks. First of
both
all, thanks for
in qualitative
responding.
as well as in quantitative.
Can you give an example?
For example, the same study, if we develop a questionnaire and make it as a quantitative, then it becomes a quantitative study. Numbers can be obtained, scorings can be obtained. But on the other way, when verbatims are gathered from the participants or from the subjects, then it can be a qualitative study. Without mixing, we can do both.
Yeah, that's great answer, Victor. That's really great answer. Without mixing, a topic can be understood by a researcher either wholly from the quantitative side or only from the qualitative side. It depends on what type of research question you have and what type of research tools you are using to measure the particular phenomena. Let us take an example. This is an example of perceived stress. Also, the Victor has already given us an example. This is another example in which perceived stress and coping strategies adopted by working women during current COVID-19 pandemic situation. So this is the research studies conducted in which the researcher focusing on stress and coping strategies adopted by the working women during this corona pandemic situation. So if the researcher want to conduct a quantitative study, he has to use those research tools which gives data in the form of verbatim, or sorry, in the form of numbers. Okay, and the analysis will be like that chi-square test or t-test or as per the other objectives and the variables. So this is what quantitative research study for this title. But if the researcher want to conduct qualitative research study with the same title, here what the researcher will do, the researcher will go to all the working women who are either suffering from or their family members are suffering from COVID situations to understand their stress and what coping strategies they use to deal with that stress. And here the researcher will have research question and will collect the data with the help of interviews, and the data will come in the form of verbatims, and analysis will be go like coding and thematic analysis, and finally the researcher will understand what is the stress and coping strategies adopted by working women. So I mean to say is that a study can be conducted as a topic, research study can be conducted in both the ways, qualitative or quantitative, without mixing. Let us take the advantage of qualitative research. Qualitative research has certain advantages over quantitative. The first is flexibility. As we all know, the quantitative research is the fixed. Everything is fixed in advance for quantitative. But in qualitative, the data collection analysis process can be adapted and changed as the new ideas or pattern emerges. They are not rigidly decided beforehand. The second advantage is that qualitative research study happens in natural setting. So the data collection occurs in real world context or in naturalistic way. So the researcher will able to understand phenomena in a broad and in-depth manner. Third advantage is meaningful insight in which detailed description of the people's experiences, feelings, and perception can be used in designing, testing, or improving systems or products. And the other important advantages of qualitative research is the generation of new ideas, in which open-ended responses mean that researcher can uncover novel problem or opportunities that they wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So while talking with the subject participants during qualitative data collection, the researcher may know or uncover some new problems of the participants, those he was not supposed to deal otherwise. Qualitative research has few disadvantages also. The first disadvantage is unreliability. The real world setting often makes qualitative research unreliable because of uncontrolled factors that affect the data. as we all know that qualitative researcher has no control on the environment in the setting, so it affects the reliability. The second is subjectivity. Due to the researcher's primary role in analyzing, interpreting the data, or the researcher himself working as a research instrument, qualitative research cannot be replicated. The researcher decides what is important and what is irrelevant in data analysis, so interpretation of the same data can vary greatly. Limited generalizability is also one of the disadvantage because of the small sample that taken for gathering of the data about the specific context. Despite rigorous analytical procedures, it is difficult to draw generalizable conclusions because of the data may be biased or unrepresentative of the wider population. The other disadvantage is it is very labor intensive. Although now we have some software which can be used to manage and record large amount of the text, data analysis and interpretation. But here often it has been checked or performed manually. So it is labor intensive process. So to conclude, qualitative researchers begins with the broad questions regarding the phenomena of interest. Flow of activities is more flexible and researchers select a site or seek to gain entry. Research design is emergent, the data collection, analysis and interpretation. Qualitative researcher concludes by disseminating shapes direction for the future studies, guides the development of structure measuring tools for clinical and research purposes, and shapes nurses' perception of a problem or situations and their conceptualization of potential solutions. So this is all about presentation from my side. Now I have few questions for you to discuss, to just know how much you got from this presentations. So this question is: phenomenological study involves all of the following except intuition, bracket out, manipulation, analysis. You can give your answer in chat box as well.
Sir, manipulation.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. I think chat. Yeah, I can see the chat. Option is C. That is manipulation. MG has written C. Okay, phenomenon, intuition is there, bracketing is there, analysis has to be done. There is no manipulation. Manipulation is only seen in where? Experimental studies or quasi-experimental studies. Sorry. Next question 4. Is it visible? Abin, is it visible? Question number 4.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Question 4 is qualitative research design where lived experiences of the individual are examined is option A, case study, grounded theory, ethnography, phenomenology.
Sir, maybe phenomenology.
Yeah, that's true. Phenomenology, we deal with the lived experiences. In ethnography, it's more focus on where we do is for ethnography. Anyone? Microethnography, macroethnography. In ethnography, we focus on culture.
Cultural.
Cultural. Okay. In grounded theory has roots in sociology, right? Case study is the study of one subject or one unit at a time. Next question is: the area of inquiry is grounded theory approach is social structure process within a social setting, behavior observed over time in natural context, holistic view of the culture, or lived experiences?
See, I think it is A.
Yeah, go
Social
ahead.
structure processes within a social setting.
Culture.
Ethnography is only culture.
Culture is for ethnography. Culture is for ethnography. Lived experience is for
Phenomenology.
okay, behavior observed over time in natural context, or the only A or B option are available now.
Option A, sir.
Yeah, option A is the correct answer. The grounded theory approach is focused on social structure process within a natural social setting. Now the question number 6, amic perspective. Where we have seen amic and etic perspective? Where we have seen amic and etic perspective?
In ethnographic studies.
Yeah, in ethnographic study, amic and etic perspective we have seen. So amic perspective refers to outsider views, insider views, etic perspective, or a holistic view.
Insiders.
Insider view. Amic perspective is insider views. That's the correct answer. Which is the characteristics of qualitative research method? Where is the question? Characteristic of qualitative research method: naturalistic inquiry, random sampling, introduction of a treatment, or use of a control group.
It is naturalistic inquiry copyright.
A, sir. A.
Very good. Very good answer. All of the three characteristics, all of the three pictures are characteristics of quantitative research.
Quantitative studies.
Question 8. In qualitative research, the guiding principle in deciding sample size is option A, data saturation, effect size, number of variables, subgroup analysis. क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च में सैंपल साइज को हम कैसे डिसाइड करते हैं?
Data saturation.
Very good answer. With the help of data saturation. And what is data saturation? What is data saturation?
There's no data to be collected after collecting all the data, sir. There's nothing else to be collected.
Yeah, nothing new information will be coming out from the new participants. Once the researcher came to know that now there will be no new more informations we will able to get from the subsequent samples or subsequent subjects. This is called data saturation. And here the researcher stops. Going ahead, question 9, a design that unfolds in the course of qualitative study is a design that, sorry, here the course is written twice. A design that unfolds in the course of qualitative study is emergent design, quasi-experimental, exploratory, or experimental.
Exploratory, sir. Option C.
Any other guess?
Emergent. It is a qualitative.
Read the same again. A design which emerged during the course of study is the emergent design.
Emergent.
Okay. Emergent, because the researcher will decide everything while conducting the study. Nothing will be fixed before in hand. The last question is, in which approach to qualitative research do the researcher intend to generate a theory that is based on systematically gathered and analyzed? Phenomenology, biography, grounded theory, or case study?
Grounded theory. Generated theory.
Grounded theory, sir.
Yeah, that's correct answer. Grounded theory is used to develop and generate many theories which we are using right now in nursing, especially middle range theory. So this is all about from my side. Once again, I would like to thank Bio International Nursing Academy as well as Dr. Baines for giving me opportunity to talk with these wonderful people who are really uh, who are eager to learn about qualitative research methods with these online platforms. Thanks once again to all of you. I stop
Thank you.
from my side.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for this outstanding interactive session. And you have pushed the boundaries of learning and knocked out our concealed areas, which is related to today's subject. And we are very lucky and fortunate to have you with us, sir. And you have provided us the tool, which is we are going to use like a magical wand in the area of nursing research. And even you have provided a wonderfully lively examples and wide range of literature evidences. And the best part is the quiz session where our participants enthusiastically participated. And we thanks everyone who have been shown their great enthusiasm over this session. And our academy is very lucky to have a resource person and a teacher like you. Your presence and experience gave more meaning to our Ben Academy. And once again, thank you very much, sir. A big round of virtual applause for sir. So would you like to say some more words for our audience and for our Ben Academy?
Yeah, uh, from my side, I would like to say that uh, everyone is facing such a tough time in Corona, in which we are not able to take face-to-face interactions with our teachers, and we are losing a lot and in nursing research. So, with the help of these online platforms and webinar, it's really Bio International is doing a very good job to delivers with the help of experts to delivering knowledge content to those learners who really want to learn. So I really congratulate to Bio International for these organizing regular webinars on different topics from the different experts across India. I really congratulate to Bio Internationals, and that's from my side.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And we agree with you. And thank you for this boost and to rejuvenate our young minds who are keen and very urged to learn from you. And now I would like to request our participants to please share their experience with today's session. So please take this moment to unmute and vocal up and share your feedbacks. Abdood, Abdood Bankar is there. Thank you for your feedback. Anyone, they can unmute you can unmute yourself and you can vocal up. Anybody?
Yeah, this is Professor Lalita here. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, sir. I know that there are a lot of research methodology conferences and workshops and webinars which focuses only on quantitative designs, and it's a great opportunity for us to learn about the qualitative research designs. And thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lalita ma'am, for your kind words and encouragement.
Thank you, ma'am. Or anybody else? Please lead on and share your feedbacks. Definitely, it's going to fulfill out your wishes, and it's going to fulfill the lapses which we have got. Anybody else?
This is I'd like to thank
Madam, we are unable to hear you. Madam, we are unable to hear you. There are certain glitches are going on. Madam, we are unable to hear you.
Hello,
Anyway,
can you hear me now? This is
yeah,
Professor
ma'am.
Smita Philip. Yeah,
Okay,
I'd
ma'am.
like to thank Bio International, and I'd like to very grateful to Dr. Maheshwari sir for giving us such an enduring enduring experience in this qualitative research. This is a very innovative way in which now research can take place. And I myself am pursuing my PhD in a mixed study wherein qualitative research also is a part of my PhD study. So this has been really helpful. This session has been really helpful for my PhD, pursuing my PhD study. And I once again I'd like to thank Maheshwari sir and Bio International.
Thank you, ma'am.
So much.
Thank you very much. And even our chat box are also flooding out with the participants' feedbacks. We thank everyone. And thank you for sharing your wonderful experience. And definitely it's going to cheer up our energy to top mode. And we are very grateful to each and everyone who are the evident part of our session. And once again, I put my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Sushil Kumar Maheshwari, sir, for taking time off from his busy schedule for this webinar. We do enjoy and cheer the presence of our participants for their attentive engagement with the session. And despite being confronted by rescheduled timings, we appreciate your patience and management that you have shown today. We are also highly thankful to our team member for their kind effort and for constantly coordinating with our managerial process. With these few words, as usual, it's an honor and pleasant duty for me to bring this session down with a kind note. That is, after the end of this session, within a couple of days, you will receive your e-certificates in your respective mail IDs. Even you can also download your e-certificates from our official Facebook and Instagram page. So do keep visiting our both official pages and get updated with our future projects and programs. If you do have some queries or suggestions, feel free to drop in our mail. We will be highly pledged to fulfill your wishes. Now, dear participants, put your shoulder on the wheel as we have more sterling and dazzling sessions woven for you. So let's have a glimpse of this. Here we have our next webinar on quantitative research design, which is going to held on 18th of July, which is on Sunday, and the timing will be from 2 to 4 p.m. And our resource person is another great expert, Dr. Usha Marath, who is currently a principal in Lisi College of Nursing in Ernakulam, Kerala. I know you all are, as usual, excited. So please do register yourself before the main day. And we do have one more program. So this is our webinar on data analysis using our software, which is going to start from July 14th to 17th. And the timing will be from 7 to 9 p.m. And our resource person will be Dr. Vince Varghese, who's another expert in it. And in this program, we are offering the following packages. The full version of our software will be installed in your laptop. And the basic theory lectures will be scheduled to understand the concepts. And even the candidates will be taught how to report the findings. And the e-certificates will be provided in all the programs. So to be a part of our program, you can contact us or even directly access our registration link for the following programs. Now this is the time to wrap up. And once again, on behalf of Bio International Nurturing Academy, I place my gratitude to our resource person and the speaker of this wonderful, interactive, and the dazzling session by Dr. Sushil Kumar Maheshwari, sir. And thank you very much, sir. And of course, you dear participants, for your lovely presence and for your enthusiastic performance throughout the process and the event. So see you soon in our next session.